Hey, it's Ricardo and welcome back to Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, Sin and Sacrifice. Sin and Sacrifice is the fourth and final DLC of Season 1 for Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, and we're going to deal with Mission 2 of the campaign now, which is called Red-Handed Leonis. Now, we're going to play through the entire mission in real time, and at the end we're going to show the cut sequence of how well I've done. So let's take a look. But before we do that, let's start with a little bit of backstory that you get before you start the mission.
Helena? Helena! What do you mean you have Klothos on board? I shot that thing in the head, and then just to be safe, I blew it up. And after that, we blew up its remains along with its whole frakkin station!
It's in the brig. Go see for yourself. I'm busy here. It keeps calling itself a reversion. I don't think it's the only one.
Sarkis is going to lose it when he finds out. You remember what it did to him, don't you? He was broken when I pulled him out of that station. He still isn't 100%.
And that's why security will not permit Admiral Sarkis entry to the brig. This station is my command, Praetor. While you are on board Daedalus, you will answer to me.
Sir, I'm only expressing my concerns with holding a Cylon agent inside of our primary shipyard and sole command center, especially with hostile forces escalating.
You really don't have to worry, it's not going anywhere. 3 fully armed Marines are on it around the clock. Nothing down there is automated or wireless. Trust me, that part of the station is so old there's not even a coffee machine for it to hack.
Until I am confident there are no more like it out in the colonies, the Cylon stays here. Finding Lachesis is your only concern for now, Praetor. Dismissed.
So there you have it. The Cylon Lachesis is now in the brig. No Wi-Fi connection. Let's face it, every teenager is going to find that an absolute nightmare. So my loadout for this Daedalus mission, Mission 3, the Red-Handed Leonis, is going to be a Jupiter, a Minerva, we've got a couple of Adamants, a Minotaur, and
Prepared to jump
an Artemis.
3, 2,
got some Vipers,
1.
some Mark II Vipers assigned there, Mark I Vipers assigned to the Daedalus, to be fair. The ships are now jumping in all their
Multiple
glory.
Dratus contacts. I've got a
Multiple
couple of
Dratus
colonial military
contacts.
transponders on the board as well. Authentications are old, but clean.
Unknown station. This is Daedalus Actual. Identify yourself. And then you can explain what you're doing out here with these colonial ships.
Admiral Kane, I would be lying if I said I was pleased to hear from you right now.
Not the welcome I was expecting, if I'm being honest.
Let's just say Kane and Winutu have not seen eye to eye recently.
So it's all kicking off. So we've got a protagonist actually in system with some Heracles, the Colonial Heracles ships. Very important. They're guarding that base. What you have to do in this mission is quite simple. Protect that base. It's called a diplomatic checkpoint. Try and not lose too many of these other ships. Don't lose your own ships, and destroy the Cylon. That's what it's all about. So it's quite simple. So when the placement comes into this mission, you can sort of get on point and start laying down fire pretty quickly. Now, these Heracles ships, they're quite funky, to be perfectly honest with you. They're quite heavily armoured. They cost 1,250 command points, so they're by no means cheap.
Yes, sir.
And they're old Imperial era ships, is what it says in the blurb. Point defence batteries, massive cannons going up and down the spine, no missiles, no Viper squadrons. So it's a bit like an upgraded Minotaur. Probably, I would say. Costs more than the Minotaur, costs more than the Berserker. So this is generally just a gunship. No missiles, just guns. So we're going to get our fleet engaged. We're going to launch our Vipers, get our squadrons in play. Now, the Cylons do have some Phobos class ships. Now they're able to do micro jumps inside the system. Now these micro jumps can be a right pain because you send all your missiles off on one, they do a micro jump, go straight for the Daedalus, and we'll see that a little bit later. But as you can see, that's that Heracles, the new ship for Sin and Sacrifice. Battlestar Galactica Deadlock Sin and Sacrifice came with 2 new ships. The Cylon Gorgon, which we've yet to see, but it's been alluded to, and the Colonial Heracles. And like I say, there's an entire section on these I'll be doing in a later video.
IFF confirms unit is hostile.
Now, like I say, there's 3 of them, all positioned around that particular station.
Lucinda, you've just found her somewhere near Leonis, haven't you?
Got a little bit of story.
Maybe you have a better idea of what the good minister is doing out there.
Shoring up some less than legal agreements with the Leonids, no doubt. She's been up to something out here for the last week, but what that was exactly had thus far eluded us.
Looks like her usual gun-running, ship-smuggling side business from here.
It's my understanding that no one expects Colonial Fleet to attend to this situation. Leonis hasn't yet officially asked for any intervention, and the risk to fleet assets could be substantial.
Last I checked, Canceron was still an ally of Colonial Fleet. It's our duty to protect their people, wherever they are. Close comms, Lieutenant. Admiral Kane doesn't need any more distractions.
On it, Commander.
And we're back. The story's finished.
Yes,
so,
Commander.
what are they doing? They gun running. Something sneaky's going on in this mission. We don't care really, though. Although it plays to a larger story. Our entire mission here: destroy the Cylon. So I'm pursuing, or maneuvering the Cylons really with these Heracles. I'm starting to lay down some heavy fire with their guns. Quite easy to start targeting, it has to be said. Moving my group of 3 battle stars, which I have over on the right hand side towards the top of the screen, should we say, into a position where there's 4 contacts.
Yes, Commander.
Gonna start laying down some fire, gonna start taking those out. I've got my 2 Adamant class and the Minotaur and 2 Heracles ships, which are currently you're able to control these as well. Going after the other 2 Cylon contacts down towards the lower left. Now, it's been quite good with these missions because you do get a bit of story sort of peppered through the entire event, which makes the 21 minutes of gameplay a little bit more interesting. Not too much too interesting. It does tend to leave you to it through a lot of the game, although obviously when you're starting off it's laying down those storylines. Now, the Cylons are obviously giving me an awful lot of hassle with missiles. They've launched raiders. The Heracles, it's doing a pretty good job. They don't seem to be taking a hell of a lot of a beating. I'm not sure whether the balancing is wrong here, and that could be something that, Blacklab Games and Slitherine could take a look at, perhaps. Now, given that this is the end of Season 1 of Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, the Sin and Sacrifice DLC, I think, is quite full of content. I mean, the last one, Anabasis, effectively just gave us, that survival mode and a few other things, of course. But this one, I think, it's a full-bodied advancement for the game. You've got a free jukebox selection. You've got veterancy, free. Whether you've bought Sin and Sacrifice, regardless, that's Commander. What's in there. You've got radio chatter. And of course you do get these 2 other ships if you bought the DLC and the campaign. I mean, the game's evolving no end. I mean, let's face it, the graphics have evolved right the way from the very beginning. There's been loads of areas and also tweaks to the ships in regards to their weighting and leveling. But these ships, they're starting to burst through the Cylon defences. We're taking them out already.
This station is a long way from home. A lot of effort to go to for a couple of ships.
Again, a bit of story.
Terrorist cells.
Self-preservation. Leonis had some hulls spare and were willing to trade fairly for them. Certain corners of the Quorum like to forget that I have the largest defense obligations of the 12 colonies.
I think I know exactly how you feel, Minister. So many colonies not paying their fair share, and yet they continue to demand more and more from everyone else.
I do not appreciate my people's safety being held hostage to your extortions, Admiral. Besides, this would be academic if Canceran had the Jupiter you promised us. I suppose it must have slipped your mind, what with Mr. Quaid no longer there to act as your conscience.
So, effectively what they're saying is, hey, what are you doing here? It's nothing to do with you, Colonial Fleet. We're taking care of our own business. Whether that be gun running or, you know, munitions storing or what have you. The Cylons have popped in where they're not wanted. The Colonial Fleet shows up. And, of course, people then having to start to explain themselves. Everyone's starting to hide behind the articles of colonization, where a colony has to ask for the help of the Colonial Fleet, or keep them out of it and effectively get on with it themselves. So that's where it's going here. And we've seen a lot of that in previous DLC content. Now here's the thing. I mean, I'm finding the Phobos, or Phobius, Cylons tricky. They're tough little ships. In fact, sometimes they're probably even harder to hit than the base stars when you get the base stars in game. The base stars I find quite easy. Circle them, lay down the heavy fire with the guns,
Commander.
lay down Viper cover for your battle stars and other ships that are in the area, and you're okay. With the Phobos, or Phobius, because it jumps, you end up losing munitions and things like that. However, it just goes to show, with all the plating on the front of the hulls and sides of the hulls of those Heracles ships, the Colonial Heracles just keeps on going. The hull is incredibly strong. So an awful lot of sort of subsystem management has to be done to keep these things in any sort of working or fighting order, at least for the time being. And there you can see, there's a picture of the Heracles taking a pounding on the right. See if we can turn that around and lay some additional missile cover and turret coverage on the attacking Cylons. We're only down to a few ships now, so that's not so bad. Those Hydras can be a right pain as well. You know, as you expect, tough ships. Really tough ships.
Boarded one of our ships.
Now you can see the Phobos, as or Phobius, has jumped effectively a full length of the screen down towards the Daedalus. Now the Daedalus, our shipyard, you know, I left some Vipers to cover it. Hopefully that'll be enough. It's got its own turrets as well, which I think is also good. And I'm going to send some other Vipers down to sort of take it off, as well as giving some additional long-range missile coverage from over here. The guns on these Battlestars are more than a match for the current Cylons that are in game for this third mission. And as a result of that, no two dramas. You know, the drama is fine. The Minotaur as well, taking a bit of a pasting, not as much as the Heracles down the bottom left hand side, and so far the station hasn't had any damage. And here you go, you can see some of the stats there, you know, for the Heracles itself. Maneuverability for those, not so bad. What you'd expect. It's a long cigar-shaped ship, which, let's call it out what it is a big lumbering old hulk. It's not particularly fast, but when it does get to wherever it's going, like I say, it's going to lay down that heavy fire. So we're still picking off the Cylons in that one particular area. Some Cylon targets have yet to reveal themselves as to what they are, but I'm not foreseeing there being too much of a problem, not at this stage in the game.
Unit identified. Heracles is taking damage.
The guns on the Battlestar whittling away the Cylon armor.
Yes, Commander.
And of course we're going to get some missiles in play as well. I mean, one of the ships I'm very impressed with is the Artemis class Battlestar that I have in play as well. Nippy Battlestar. You know, it can shift. Not like the big lumbering hulk of the Jupiter. So, as the smaller range of Battlestars, but what we say is a Battlestar with the 2 flight pods on either side, that's what classes as a Battlestar in my book. It's nippy. Viper Squadron, missiles, speed, pretty good armour. I mean, what more could you possibly want? Well, yeah, 2 missile batteries, I suppose. But, let's face it, it's not too bad. It's not too bad in a fight. Although could do with some upgrades. And I think perhaps that's what it's lacking here as well with this game, to take it to the next level. Perhaps in Season 2, is have the ability to, not on a great scale, but upgrade your Battlestars with, say if it was from Tauron, additional armour, additional guns, at the expense of, in some cases, say a Viper Squadron, or, increased armoury, increased subsystems, that sort of thing. I mean, the possibilities for this are endless, let's be fair. But so far as a campaign, even though we're only on mission 3 here, I am finding it very enjoyable. It's a little bit of added story, does add a little bit of depth, but it's so compelling if you're a fan of Battlestar Galactica, whether that's the 1972 version, or whether that's the re-envisioned version in 2003 by Ron Moore, which ran for 5 years.
So say we all.
Strategy is great. I think the AI is pretty good in this as well. I haven't played any other games from Slitherine. Only Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, and that's to my detriment, I dare say. I might go and have a look and see if I can reinvest in some of those other strategy games that they've got on the go.
Yes, sir.
So far, so good. No colonial casualties. Yes, they're whittling down my Viper fleets, but that's to be expected with the amount of work I've got them doing. I got some Vipers protecting the Battlestars, 1 group of each. I've also got the Raptor squadrons in play, firing off their rockets, then going back in, landing, rearming, getting back out there, putting additional missile batteries down as well.
Recalling squadron.
Good stuff. I use the Vipers and the Raptors in concert like this, really. Get the Viper cover out there, send the Raptors in, they board with the Marines, and then they then degrade the ships, the Cylon ships. Now, if a Battlestar or other ship, generally a Battlestar, is being boarded by Cylons or is being hacked, you can then send your Raptor over there to bolster up defences, should you want to. Well, that's a worthwhile strategy. So the Heracles, they're okay. I'm sure they'll come into their own at some stage of the game. And I say that not to be dismissive of him, but in this mission, you don't really get to see what they can do. After this mission, you do get them as a blueprint option, but they're quite expensive. I think about 1,850 requisition points. So by no means cheap, and you're going to have to sort of get those requisition points built up throughout the game to afford them. But to be honest with you, I think you can probably make do without them. And that's just from my very early point of view. A decent ship, don't get me wrong, but it's not worth sacrificing other advancements of the game or other things that you could possibly get from within this Battlestar Galactica universe in the shop, just to concentrate on that new ship. Now I'm swinging my fleet around, I'm getting some missiles sent off towards the remaining Cylon threat. Still laying some fire down where I need to. A couple of messages, the Heracles are taking bad damage, but I'm confident that they can take it. And when you see the hull ratings on these ships, they really are quite substantial. So swinging that big old Jupiter class around so we can lumber on back toward the Daedalus. Viper squadrons are engaging and whittling down the armour on that Cylon ship. So again, like I say, I'm not too concerned about all that. And as we know from this game, it is all about positioning. So there you go. About repairing that subsystem. The CIC. Loads and loads of armor around that. Everywhere else, not so much.
On it, Commander.
So there you go. The Adamant and the Minotaur laying down the fire. Cylon casualty at the top there. Going to turn our focus to the remaining Cylon ship. And it won't be long before he is back to the resurrection chamber. So the Raider squadrons, they're being a bit of a pain. So, especially around those Heracles ships. So a bit of targeting now. Getting more Vipers in play.
Squadron target is confirmed.
I mean, the Cylon Phobos, I mean, it does really hang in there. It really does. So anyway, if you've lasted this long in watching this game, and I can understand it can be a little bit boring at the planning stage, and you like what you're seeing and the coverage of Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, Sin and Sacrifice, then do me a favour. Click that like and subscribe button, and also check out the notification icon. Not only will I be doing more Sin and Sacrifice videos along the campaign and skirmish modes, but I'll also go back and revisit the other DLC as well. Now, full disclosure, Slitherine Games did give me a pre-release copy of Sin and Sacrifice, and that was much welcomed. Thank you very much, Blacklab and Slitherine Games.
So say we all.
So what's my impression of this Cylon Heracles? I keep saying Hercules, but it's a Heracles.
Heracles is taking damage.
What can I say what I have already said? It's okay. I was expecting something a bit more...
All Cylon units have been neutralized,
advanced,
sir.
for example.
Should we send Marines down to the station for the Minister?
But as you can see, I finished. Got a little bit of story here.
Lieutenant.
Your wings don't make you the CO on this deck, Dougal.
You're right. You're right. I'm just a man without his head shoved up the Quorum's ass. Minister Wenuto has done nothing wrong. It is a complete misuse of your power to arrest colony officials just for being stranded in the wrong system.
Tell the Minister she is free to go.
Thank you, Admiral. I'm sure deep down you're tired. Tired of begging for scraps from your owners. One day, you'll stop your begging and your yapping, and you'll find the soldier inside you. I actually look forward to...
Now there's obviously some bad blood going on there between Kane and the protagonist in this system. Let's watch the replay.
Battery, full attack mode. Fire at will.
Escort clearance zone is active. Solution updated. Target acquisition maintained. Escort priority 1 still online. We're taking fire!
Target is 34 by 99.
Come on, come on, come on.
Go, go, go! Contested shot by .06. Fire!
Switching guns to manual.
Keep your target locked and watch for signals.
Get him! Get him!
They're breaching our firewall. Breaching. Bingo fuel. Start it now.
That's what you get, frakkin. Cleanup order received. Rally on me.
Time to clean up and go home.
So there you go, thanks very much for watching. I've been Ricardo, this has been Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, and the 4th DLC available for Season 1, which was Sin and Sacrifice. We've seen the Colonial Heracles in action, and this was Mission 3 of the 11-part campaign. Check back for more videos in the series, thanks for watching, and see you soon.